Um, how do you address situations when individuals are not performing within expectations?
Well, you just talking about me as swim coach. Well, you have loads of things that you can address things for. It's like going back. If someone's not doing what they're supposed to, the easiest thing is just say, "Oh, go away."
Mm-hmm.
It isn't always the right thing to say, "Go away," because sometimes there's other things involved that are much more important than what it is you're trying to achieve. In this case, let's keep it on swimming. I've dealt with this a lot. So sometimes you're in a situation where the tough thing about being a coach is that you are always evaluated, right? In terms of that, and your job as your coach or swim coach in this case. So your evaluations primarily are made up of what you're doing beneficial to your swimming. But if you're always making decisions specifically on that, you might be overlooking some things that very willing to admit are much more important than swimming. Somebody is having trouble finding the pool when it's supposed to be swimming.
Mm-hmm.
But why are they having trouble finding the pool? It might not be that they don't want to be there or they don't want to swim. I was telling a story just last week about a girl from back in the early 80s, or late 80s, early 90s, I guess, and she was having trouble with the world. Her world wasn't behaving. As dealing with kids in the college years, I've always addressed it as it's the four most dynamic years of your life. And the dynamic isn't necessarily good or bad.
It's changing.
It's change. You've left your house, and whatever your parents gave you for 18 years to help develop you, now it's time to see if it's going to work. What do you keep? What do you toss out? Some kids sometimes wind in difficulty. You wind up in a situation where, if I just stick with my job, I'm a swim coach, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. I'm not working in the best interest of every individual. But you also get to the point where you understand where it goes. You can't lean too far one side or the other, because you're cutting either yourself in the program short, your teammate short, or you're cutting that kid short. And just like so much in life, it's a balance situation. And there's so many kids, and you've got teammates, you know them, you've got roommates and stuff, and you've seen pluses and minuses that they have. So it's just questioning, what's the end game? The end game is to have the best swim season we can have. But what cost?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be at someone's disposal or something. So, I've dealt with situations. I've had semesters where I was spending more time trying to keep the kid alive than I was keeping the swim team, in line.
Okay.
And that's an honest to God truth. I had one semester where that was what I was working on. One kid that was trying to not take care of himself. Not really trying to kill himself, but he wasn't. He was trying.
Mm-hmm.
He was crying for help. So that's more important. That's an extreme. But every kid that has a problem, and it just amazes me that every time I try to think of different scenarios before I address situations. Rather than just, hey, you weren't here the last 3 days, what the hell is the matter with you? And then find out, okay, grandfather died. That's why I'm all screwed up right now. So you just saw, and it just seems no matter how much you try to let this go, and then address it, and then I had this girl this semester, something like this happened to her, and finally said, well, I'm just sending this kid an email. Well, didn't get a response. Sending this kid a second email. What's going on? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, 2 days after the second email, I called the kid's mother in the hospital. So I didn't say anything bad in the email.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to all right, I'm glad.
Yeah.
What's running through my mind, and what I'm trying to think of, and it's just one of the things you're just dealing with so much that you're trying to be fair to individuals, you're trying to be fair to the team as a group, and always trying to balance those things out. Do you remember Joey Beasy?
Mm-hmm.
A great example in terms of something like that. Here's a kid who, for some reason, I can't remember what we were talking about. I know it had something to do with the Terry invite that was coming up. And he's down on the pool deck, and he's disappointed about some decision I made or whatever, and having this conversation. I've got 35, 40 kids in the pool waiting for practice to start. And I'm spending my time talking to Joey Beasy. So I said, hold on a second. And I walk up to my office and pulled out, got something up online that I knew what it was going to be. I just wanted to see it before I said the thing that I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back downstairs, and like I said, this was like a week before Terry invite. And so I look at Joey and say, you know what, Joey? If you get in the water today, that'll be your 17th time this year, which is less than half of every kid that's in the water right now. End of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite a situation where, okay, before I make this decision, before I make this comment, I want to make sure prepared that I'm saying the right thing. I'm not being unfair to them, but I'm not being unfair to the people in the water. And as it turned out, at the end of the year, Joey came up and after the end of his freshman year, he retired from swimming. And the reason being, I didn't want to swim.
Mm-hmm.
My father was making me. And I said to him,
Tell a reason to stop. Yeah.
Next time, just tell, just tell your father he's swimming, and then don't swim.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make it easier on all of us.
Yeah.
I got so many kids out there that want to swim. Why do I have to detract from them because I'm dealing with you?
True. When you see inefficient or ineffective job performances in a unit outside your own unit, what do you do? And do you address it in how so? Well, you just described that, so it's fine. You just literally gave an example of someone that was sort of not being as effective as it could be. You dealt it in a way you prepared.
Well, let me address it in another place, because
Okay.
the first thing that popped in mind when I heard that was something totally different. Stroke mechanics.
Okay.
Some people just amaze me at how little they're willing to put into doing things better. In terms of taking the time, we do a lot of stroke work.
Yeah.
Some people work at it, some people just exist through it. And some people with just like horrendous mechanics just couldn't care less about fixing it. Even though you could sit down and say, you realize if you did this better, you'd swim faster.
Several examples on this team.
Many examples. I was thinking in terms of, a spring project. I was going to send like a half dozen kids a picture of them swimming and say, fix this. Well, don't come back next fall. So if you really care, fix this. I won't say ooh. If you said ooh, it sounded like a ooh.
No. I have a pretty good idea. How would you describe your impact on the organization you lead?
I think, going back to something I said earlier, if I evaluate myself as a coach and what do I do well, I create a sense of team. And I think that I know that's true because I see the team. And it's almost always, no matter what the sport I'm coaching, that exists. But it also, within that, there's a variance of, it's not always a great team. Sometimes there's little bits of struggle. And the main thing is it has to exist for a team to succeed is a common goal. The people in the water, the people on the field or on the court have to want to try to do what you're trying to do, even if you don't make a big deal of expressing it. Mm-hmm. A good example is going back to softball. Never talk to teams about winning in softball. And that's sort of odd because it's a game.
Yeah.
But I never talked to kids when I was coaching softball. I coached different levels up to, fairly good club level. But I never was like, okay, this is how we're going to win today. It was never done like that. It was always dealing with playing the game right, doing your part right, coaching kids to play within a certain parameters that would make them better players. And in terms of their self-evaluation, my evaluation of them, understanding the game and stuff. And a good example is my daughter, who's a very good fielder. She was an infielder, primarily a shortstop at the end of her career. She would never dive for a ball because I taught her not to. Because in softball, unlike baseball, you dive for a ball in the shortstop position. You don't have time to throw a kid out.
Mm-hmm. Short field's so short.
Yeah, baseline's so short.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to dive for a ball, you might get the ball, but you won't throw the kid out. But if you instead train yourself to play the game on your feet, you'll get to more balls that you can play. The one that you could fully extend for and dive for and knock down, you still won't get it. But you're not going to get that kid diving anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a question of coaching a kid to do this and that. I think I got off the topic right there. Ask me that question again.
How do you describe your impact on the organization you lead?
Okay. Just trying to get people to understand and believe what you tell them will work. And then evaluation. When you look at your class here at BC is a great example of that. You get 14 people finishing up 4 years in the program. And if you ask them to write down 3 words to describe what they've done over the last 4 years, I'm willing to bet fun is one of them.
Yeah, I would agree because I'm part of them. But yeah,
Okay?
totally.
But I just think that that's.
It made
one-
swimming more like telling you right now. I promised myself. I promised my parents also. A minimum of 1 year, at max of whatever. But I got burned out at Schrader. You see what people at Schrader produce.
Yeah.
They go to Arizona, they go to Minnesota, they go to everywhere else, and I was burned out. And I feel like this program brought back the fun for me to a point where I loved it. And the teammates that surrounded us and the flexibility you offered really did create a very nice environment that I think offers a lot of people the opportunity to get back in the sport. Not consider the fact that they used to be burned out and really get that desire back.